Jessica Warhol, and wife, mother of 4, and the behind the scenes of Purely Living Homestead.
Hi, my name is Mark Warhol, and I'm the founder of a program called eSTEM, which is Environmental Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. Been a teacher for 31 years, and we run Purely Living Homestead now with my wife, my 2 sons, and my 2 older daughters.
Well, when we built our homestead, it was out of what we thought was just necessity and started as an emergency during COVID. And I didn't realize how much I needed it in my life. And I didn't realize how this was a lifestyle that I had been longing for. Been in education for a really long time and fell in love with nature when I moved up to the mountains about 21 years ago. And in starting environmental STEM and really trying to specialize that to the environment which we live up here in Zone 7, up in about a mile high up in the mountains, San Bernardino National Forest. I was a photographer, mom of 4, homeschooler, went from public school, pulled the kids, homeschooled them, still worked full-time. Then our life changed, and then when we built this farm, I didn't realize. I wish our life had been like this the whole time.
I started to realize that I really knew a lot in my head, but I didn't know a lot in actually doing it, just like in anything. So here I was, been teaching eSTEM, and then I started, well, let's start building things. So we built some chicken coops at the school. We have recycling bins in every classroom, greenhouses, 2 miles of trails that go towards a famous hike called Heart Rock. We've adopted for our school. And then after working on that and really starting to learn by doing, I realized I didn't do anything at the house, and my wife was really encouraging me to put some of that energy into our own property. And here I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna get the dream homestead one day.
And we've only been doing it for 4 years, but I look back on the rest of our life. We've been married 21 years and been together 24. And I'm like, wow, where would we be had we started living naturally and the way God intended us to from the very beginning? And I don't regret any of the lessons that we've learned in our life and in our marriage and with our children, but now knowing what I know, I would tell, and I do try to tell everyone, that if you can, start out the right way and create the balance and just live within the laws that God taught us that so many of us have forgotten.
And when COVID hit, there was no more waiting. It was, do we move now or do we just build and start creating? And that's what we did. And so immediately when COVID hit, under certain circumstances, some of you guys know my story, I was put on administrative leave. And so I was at home and I had to stay at home in case they wanted to call me. And God really gave us the opportunity to go full-time and build a homestead. I had no more excuses. I had all this knowledge.
And I didn't realize that building this homestead, it was, like I said, I thought it was like, oh, an emergency, we need to provide food for our family. But really all along, and what I've learned now after 4 years is, for my personal journey, which it was to find God again. We've always had God in our life, but we drifted. And we went down different routes and different roads, and we were distracted for a long while in our marriage and in our family. And we took paths that, let's just say, too many people traveled. And I'm definitely on the narrow path now. And that has been difficult and isolating and challenging. And you would say, well, then why are you doing it if it's difficult? And it's because I've never felt more at peace with myself and more loved now that I've been refined because going through building this homestead has been refinement. And my husband and I say all the time, like, you don't grow when it's easy. You need challenges. You need to fall down. You need to make mistakes. And we did a lot. And building this homestead we've had a lot of mistakes and a lot of disappointment. And our family has struggled with trying to find our balance in our personal life and our relationships. And the homestead is like, can't slow down, keep going. You're tired? Too bad. There's a storm, there's 7 feet of snow, too bad. And that makes us push through, and it makes us stop thinking about ourselves.
Everything we do is not just one isolated thing, chickens and ducks and then goats. We all kind of work together as a family. So when we're all together, when we had the girls with us, it would take us probably about 35, 40 minutes to do it. But now with the girls down the hill and we just have the boys, the 4 of us, it takes us about 45 minutes to an hour. And we gather all the food up at the feed shed, and then we break off. I'll go hit the Angora goats. The kids will come down to here. My wife usually is going down to milk the goats.
The men do all the heavy lifting, so I get to come in and forage and add fresh herbs, and pine is anti-parasitic, so I put pine branches and evergreen trees and create little nesting areas. And Mark goes to school Monday through Friday and teaches, and so when he's gone, it's just me and the boys now. So our team slowly keeps getting a little smaller and smaller. And even with that, me and the boys are able to get our routine down. Hour in the morning, hour in the evening. Doesn't include fixing fences when the dogs escape, emergencies. And then when it's snowing or we have
frozen water,
everything's iced over, we're gonna add a lot of extra time because we have to shut off all our hose bibs. And then as a team, we hand carry the 5-gallon buckets down our slope. And sometimes even with me and the boys, during the afternoon, we'll be doing chores. And then we'll take note of maybe things that when Dad gets home, we'll be like, hey, we noticed this, or we found this, and maybe that could be a weekend project, or maybe we need to do some repairs.
My son's 16 now, so he's been doing it for 4 years, and I'm trying to hand him off all the main farm basic duties of tending towards their shelter, water, food, eggs. And so that frees me up to really focus on the projects and expansion and doing more of the maintenance versus the daily sustenance that needs to be provided for these animals every day. So we're getting close.
Well, Gavin started as pooper scooper.
That was it.
And that was it. And eggs. And then now he's gone
chicken and pig duty.
Yep, and he keeps carrying a little more weight, a little more burden, a little more responsibility. Eggs are seasonal, so our egg supply changes.
So we get about, I'd say about 300 to 315, 320 eggs out of our high egg layers the first year. So the freeloaders for like the first 7 to 9 months, no eggs, but then they start laying eggs. And they'll lay eggs pretty regularly for about the first 2 to 3 years, and then it really drops off quickly. And at that stage, a lot of times they'll then get processed.
Everything we do is suffering, but it's
for a reason.
But it's rewarding at the same time.
Having children could be suffering.
Yeah.
Sorry, children. The lower coop we have, just so you know, the masculine and feminine. Up here, it's really productivity. Down below, my wife wanted colored eggs. So, to bring in the feminine to it, our lower section down there, we have the biggest variety of colored eggs. And you could purposely do that. There's a lot of fun things you could do in homesteading where you are stewards of your animals and of the land. But you could also lean it, how you care for it, how you decide they mate. And so you get a strong part in how does your homestead develop and what kind of energy is it going to give and produce.
So I learned something recently. Well, one thing is egg laying is seasonal. So in the winter when there's less light, we get less eggs. But we're always wondering, who's laying? I just learned that when the hen's comb is bright red, it indicates that she's in her laying season. When their comb is light pink, they're not laying. And so,
Blood flow.
Okay, so basics is we start with the pig food and we go up there, get the pig food, and then we go in here. I usually have someone hand me the pig food. So then you want to kind of put the bowl in the where driest, so when it gets cold, it won't get stuck in the mud, and it'll be easier to get it out, and it's better for them. They really love cold weather too. I'm gonna try to get him out if I can. Here's Manga. They weigh, when they're fully grown, they weigh around like 400 to 350 pounds. And this is, he's got tusks over here. Probably can't see him, but he's got tusks. And then they really love eggs and protein. So they're also the really like almost most feared animals. Boars, so they kind of scare off any animals near over here. So they're really good for that too.
One of the things interesting about these beds, we have about 3 of them at our homestead, but this is a hugelkultur. And hugelkultur is a German technique of layering your soil. So at the very bottom, we got a bunch of logs and branches at the bottom, probably about 3 feet below. And then we have some soil and some medium. And then the top about 1.5 to 2 feet is soil. And what happens with that is it allows water to get absorbed. We don't have to water as much. It really thrives, creating layers of diversity of different types of soil. The thing I wanted to show you is this is electroculture. And this is just copper wire that's wrapped around. And it's one of the new techniques I've been experimenting, and I'm a believer in it now because of the progress and the gains we've been seeing. When you do copper, we're at a high altitude. There's a lot of electrons up here, and we get a lot of shock. So anybody who lives up here, they say, oh, it's so dry, and you shock it. But it's because the higher altitude, the more energy is floating around that's available. We'll get a lot of static where things will come out, your hair sticks up. Well, anyways, this collects it, harnesses it, pulls it into the soil, and what that electricity, it just brings vibrancy and life and allows the microorganisms to thrive. If I went down in here, you're gonna see the layers of soil, but look at this, just down a little bit, you already got your worms that I'm seeing. You know, they're not even that far down. And when you have this wire in there, I'll show you some of the other ones in the trees we do, it just really thrives. The microorganisms go crazy. And this is a crabapple tree that we're gonna graft about 10 different types of apples on, so it's gonna have a variety of it. But you can see this copper here that I wrapped, and it goes down into the ground. The coil going down to the earth, it brings it down. It's kind of like grounding, you know, like when you're barefoot. A tree's grounded itself, but the tree's, you know, if it's weak, it's probably not gonna be picking up. And this really, picking up the electrons, and this is really helping it. But it's been a big changer. And all my hugelkultur beds, the copper has made a big game change. Even in the pharmacy for each of the plants, I was getting less powdered mildew, less negative bugs. There's a lot of life, but guess what? A lot of life means balance. So you're gonna have a couple leaves eaten, no big deal, we can share, but the whole thing doesn't go down. So that's electroculture, and it's a big one. I'd give it a try and look it up.
Well, it really took all 6 of us, physical labor, but a lot of my contribution was spending hours and hours researching each animal, putting together first aid, what am I gonna need for milking, what are we gonna need for each animal enclosure, what does that entail, health, I can't do heavy lifting, so for me it's not about the building, but it was about the care and the love. For example, with the goats, we knew we wanted to breed them, so I've never midwifed. I don't know how do goats give birth, so I spent probably a month just watching goat births and looking up what are the most common illnesses and injuries for each animal that we wanted to purchase. And then I put together vet bags, and wanting to be self-sustainable meant I have to be there when no one else is. So if I can't call a vet or I can't get extra help, I need to be prepared. And so I was just trying to fill in all of the little details while Mark and the boys were helping construction, putting together the houses.
The roles really became clear, Steve. When you live in natural law, you start to realize what the roles and sexes are. And I learned more in the last 4 years of homesteading than I did in the previous 48. And that's just because when you live with nature and under natural law, you start to realize, I'm like, man, we're the ones carrying all the bales of hay. We have to carry all the bags of feed. And it's because they just weren't made to do it. So my boys started immediately going, why are we doing all the work? And then I started having these aha moments about having sons versus daughters when you're living in natural order, natural law. And so naturally we gravitated to what I would say what God's roles would be. And she got pulled into being the nurturer and care. And after us slaving away for a whole day building our homestead, dirty, tired, we'd always have a dinner ready. And it was either my wife or my daughter, Kiana. And that made us feel like, we're appreciated and we're loved. And it's like going back to the traditional ways of living, where they lived for a living, it really started opening our eyes to actual roles.
I think also when, us having 4 children, it wasn't about commanding, you have to do this, you have to do that. It was also looking at all of the kids as individuals. So what gifts can each of us bring? And having 2 boys and 2 girls, okay, so both of our girls, they have different interests. So then it was presenting to them what roles we needed filled, and then, what would you like to contribute and how does that look for you? And so having, one daughter who was really interested in health and holistics, she helped me put together the vet bags, and she would go out there and help me heal animal injuries. And then and then our other daughter, she loved cooking. So she took on the role of making sure that we had meal preps and
snacks and desserts.
We would literally work outside till dark building, because when we started this, we started from nothing, 0 experience, and on a hill against all odds on our property. And so lots of failures and what's going to work.
We could have 10 to 12 people working here, but when you don't, and you have to diversify yourself and amongst the 6 people that are here, basing on your age, strength, and abilities, you really learn what it's like to be a body with different roles, with a common goal, and how beautiful that is. So it's another lesson you learn versus everybody's doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Everyone's job becomes very important, no matter how old or how strong they are. They're valued.
As God has guided us, and as we started getting knowledge and learning, we're like, oh my gosh, what we're learning through doing this homestead is more important than any degree in education informally that I've received in my entire life. My wife started organizing a bunch of classes, and she was really the mastermind behind what classes and what people are looking for. And then she'd say, honey, you ready to teach about chickens? I got a class booked on that. Or do you have a... And so she started to really create Purely Living Homestead and outreaching to the community. And I was shocked about how many people were coming in to learn about God's law or natural law, about living.
So we're not experts by any means, but we're ahead of where other people are up here. And then we go, hey, you want to learn what we've learned? And hopefully we can partner up, and then we can move forward together.
And so we started a private club because it isn't open just to the public. It is a certain type of people, and they come here, and it isn't for the purpose of commerce. It truly is a ministry, and to empower and build a community of like-minded people who want to eliminate fear in doing so, to learn how to live purely.
Through the struggle has been our most growth.
Yeah, we say the only time you grow in this realm, in this life, is in struggle.
I've had some people say, I wish you would share more of your pain with us because you make it look so easy. And I'm like, I don't really want to dwell in my pain too much because, oh gosh, we have hardships and we're learning constantly. And I don't know, it's a hard balance for me to share the pain.
There was a saying we have in a group of friends that I hang out with called the Bears, and we said that whoever's plan aligns the closest with God's is going to win every time. And because God is the master planner and he wants the best for us. And you learn that, right, Steve, as you raise children, that your heart's always the best for them. Not, it's not the selfishness. You want them not to suffer. But at the same time, the dichotomy is, how do they grow? How do we learn? It's through the suffering. So like my workload doubled. So I started feeling like a woman. All you beautiful housewives out there, when I started the homestead, I felt what it was to have that burden of nurturing. After I worked all day long, I had to come home and care for the animals. And now instead of having just 6 people depend on me, I had hundreds of lives depending on me. And it really helped me understand that when you care for animals, live in natural, you don't turn it off. And what I used to be able to do is turn it off when I came home. I said, honey, and she's like, I never get to turn it off.
And then that means we started respecting each other more, loving each other more.
Understanding roles. I started thinking, like, to me, if I asked her to help me pick up this poo or this really heavy thing, that was a compliment, because she's so strong, she could rock climb with me. But now as a man, I'm like, ooh, son, get out here and help me. Because that natural respect and order of things, you start to become apparent when you're living in natural law.
Well, we're the type of people who've always taken the the less traveled path. We're the black sheep. And I think for me, I started facing my fears when I pulled our children out and started homeschooling them. And so that was in preparation for this. Was me building my confidence and that I could make decisions for me and my children. It was like, oh my gosh, this is all on me. Can I do it? And I can't blame anyone. I have to take full responsibility. And so doing the homestead has been the same.
Yeah.
When we started doing classes, for me, it's building my tribe, finding the people who God is trying to align us with in our life. And so before each class, my prayer was, whoever God wants us to meet, he will bring them. And that for me was the purpose in hosting classes, was to open us up to meeting who God wanted in our life. And then through that, I have the best teacher. So my purpose was to align with God and meet whoever he wanted me to meet, because I'm the introvert, he's the extrovert. So I'm gonna set the class up, I'm gonna say my prayers, God bring me someone special in my life, and then Mark, you're gonna teach it.
So she's like, wow, everybody's really interested in raising chickens. That's like the entry level, we call it the gateway drug to homesteading. And so she's like, can you run a chicken class? I'm like, sure. So then she just books 20 kids, and then they came over and we did chickens 101. And then she goes, they want to learn about goat milk, or they want to learn.
Yeah, and he designs it, he sets up the curriculum, and I make it pretty.
We really recently been doing a lot of foraging, huh?
Yeah. So it's not just here on the homestead. We will meet people out in some of our favorite beautiful places on the mountain that it's not only fun to learn there, but it's just pleasing to our soul to be out in these beautiful places. And so we're meeting people out in nature and being grounded, and then teaching them in the field what we do. And foraging is such a big part of our family and our homestead. And so we take people out and show them what we're doing on a regular basis, and what we're learning, and how we're using the plants and what we do with them. And then sometimes we'll even bring them back to the homestead after we foraged, and then we process together.
But my wife really felt blessed through us doing the Purely Living Homestead with our sons, in particular with Everett, huh?
Yeah, I think watching his growth was one of the most profound lessons that I've experienced on the homestead, considering that he was in special ed. I had him in public school, dealt with all of IEPs, individual education, and speech therapy, and he had learning disabilities. And so taking him from public school to then homeschool, there was such a rapid increase in his growth compared to all the years that he had spent in public school and in therapy. And when we stopped everything and just started living.
Yeah. He was really good at living.
Yeah.
Just wasn't good at school.
Right. And so with living and doing man work and working with Dad and getting dirty and being in the soil and with the animals.
Well, when COVID hit, my son was working 6 to 8 hours a day with me, building fences, building goat shelters, chicken coops, you name it. And at first I was really frustrated. I was telling my wife, just let him sleep in. It's more work than it's worth it, because, you know, you have a young 12-year-old building fences in a chicken coop with you. It's gonna be a lot of mistakes. And it was at that point I realized that that's a part of life, and that if I don't invest, I'll be farming the rest of my life alone. So thank goodness my wife gave me that advice, and I turned everything we did in the farm as like a school for Everett. And his confidence went through the roof, and now he's like the farm manager. Yeah.
He went from nonverbal to us as parents really having deep discussions about his future, and that he may be with us his whole life, or he may not have a career because of his disabilities and communication and not being able to say what is in his brain.
But that's not the case anymore.
No, and he went from nonverbal to verbal and far exceeded our expectations.
God provided the resources, and within a year we built this homestead. And that's why we really feel compelled to share our experience living this type of lifestyle and the lessons that God teaches you through living in truth. They're really the only lessons that matter in life. And it's really learning the laws that no man creates. It's the law that I don't care if you're a child, an adult, brown, white, what nationality, what religion you have. You must obey, and that's the laws of nature. And there's no lie in nature. So the more I started to embrace what nature was and what it was teaching me, the happier my life got, and the easier it got, and the easier it was to make decisions. So Purely Living Homestead, it's all about refinement, and we really believe that it's through living in the real, through doing that which has been going on since the beginning of time in nature, which is caring for nature, and it in turn cares for you, showing respect and honor, communicating, listening. And in doing all that, you really start to learn what life's all about. And then you start to remember who you are and your place in it. And I think that's the greatest gift. And the easiest way to figure that out is by living in nature.
And we have to focus on the farm and keeping the animals alive. And in doing so, it brings healing. And then our relationship becomes refocused, and then the center becomes with God and what's real and what's natural. And it's really been a blessing. We love our farm, and I love this farm, and we love sharing it with everyone. And we hope that our life and our struggles, and that we can help others, save them from pitfalls and things that we've encountered in our life. And we're not some old super wise people, but we've definitely gone through our trials, and we're an open book. And anyone that comes to our homestead, we welcome them with open arms, and we share, and what do you need and what can I give you? And everyone that we meet, our intention is to treat them like family, with our intention of keeping God first. He brings people into our lives and to this farm and who we need to meet, and takes us and our farm and our journey on where it needs to go. So we, even before each class or each event or anything that we host, our intention is to do it and to meet who God wants us to meet. Nothing really is ours here, and anything He wants to do with it, we're just the caretaker, and we're His servant. And we want to provide to whoever needs it, and we do His will. And that's the best thing about our farm.
God, be my vision, be my holy truth. Yeah, I'll be the branches if you'll be the root. I'd give all my freedom, I'd become a slave to lay on your shore and be washed by your waves. To lay on your shore and be washed by your waves. I don't care for riches nor man's empty praise, 'cause you're all I want for all of my days. I'd give all my money, I'd throw it away to stand in your presence and feel the light of your face. To stand in your presence and feel the light of your face. All I want is you, you know. You stir the joy of letting go. Yeah, I found my peace, I found my hope, I found